Welcome to another episode of WoT Talk, or WOTT, where I, your host, or Wheel of Time Talk. You know, there's a lot of ways to name this, but where I, your host, Daniel Greene, go over your guys' responses to questions I ask about the Wheel of Time series, and that's kind of what this show has shaped to be. And I honestly don't mind it at all. I really like kind of just reading the pulse of the Wheel of Time community the best I can. And in this episode, I asked you guys, what is the best romance in the Wheel of Time? And you responded in a pretty interesting way. So I posted this poll 9 days ago, and we got 417 votes. Not a bad amount. Now, the video got 1,742 views in that time, so not everybody voted. But you know what? It's okay. It's okay. I know some people just don't have a preference, don't have an opinion. But this will be a spoilerish episode, as we are going to talk about these various romances somewhat in detail, and it'll lead to quite an interesting time. But before we dive into it, I would just like to once again shout out the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. These guys do a Wheel of Time podcast that is so great, and I've done 2 episodes with them. Look for the Shadow Rising chapters 9 and 10. That's where your boy, I'm on there, doing some chapter discussions with them. If you have not finished the series, do not listen to their podcast. Not because they're not amazing, but because even they say that, because, wow, they go full on spoiler talk, my guys. They go full spoilers. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start talking about what is the best romance in the Wheel of Time. So we have a very basic breakdown to start with here, and I'm going to start from the bottom up, from the lowest voted to the highest voted. And I did have all the romances here listed. I was worried I was going to get a comment of like, Daniel, how could you have possibly forgot this one? But I didn't. Apparently I got them all, so I'm excited for that. But with a whopping 0% of the overall votes, and they actually only got 1 vote, we have Egwene and Gawain. So I don't think we need to go super in depth to why this one didn't get many votes, but I would like to just talk about their romance as a whole. It is a thing within the community to hate on the Egwene-Gawain romance, and it's often considered forced. People say they hold each other back, a lot of stuff like that. And I don't entirely disagree. But seeing it so low with 1 measly vote, I wonder if the hate's too much, I personally don't love the romance, but just seeing it between the next pick, which was Gulad and Elaine, seeing it below even that one is almost a little insulting. But yes, at the second to last spot, we have Gulad and Elaine. So this is kind of something that there's attraction hinted at earlier on in the book, and then they just kind of end up together at the end. And that's why this one is considered so low. It's literally just those 2 points, which is why the fact that it's above Egwene and Gawain to me surprises me. Because yes, they're not exactly what I would call Egwene and Gawain meant to be. I don't think anyone really enjoys their developing romance and how it ends, especially. But I don't know. I'm not feeling the hate being that level. But yeah, Gulad and Elaine number 2, second to last, where it's just kind of a throwaway romance, where it's just here's these 2 attractive people, even though they don't have much in common. We're just gonna make them together because Gulad is this like super staunch, never compromise morals leader. Well, Elaine seems to be more of a incredibly politically savvy, brilliant woman, but she's not nearly as stringent in terms of how Gulad just sees everything as white and black. She's much more of someone who's willing to see the gray of the world. And I'm not saying every couple needs to be exactly like each other, but I just don't see the potential chemistry there. But I only can even say potential because we don't see really their chemistry besides a couple of little things. But moving on, at the third to last, we have probably the relationship I have the least to say about. That's Morghese and Talonvor. It's not a bad romance, but it's one that's certainly just put in there to give some kind of emotional weight and character connection existing. So while I don't love the romance, I don't think it's the worst thing on the planet. I think it's what I would say just fine. It's fine. It's not horrendous. It's there. It's serviceable. And now we have one that's shockingly low to me. So far, Gawain Gawin got 1 vote. Galad Berlain and Morghese and Talonvor, both those relationships only got 3. And with a whopping 4 votes, we have Rand and Elaine. Now, this being one of the, crucial center romances being this low, maybe I need to reevaluate how I view Elaine, because I don't hate her character, as a lot of people seem to do. And even more people seem to hate their romance, but only 4 of the 417, I think I said that number, votes cast. People thought it was the best. And, if I recontextualize it by saying, I asked you guys to vote for the best, I guess these bottom ones make more sense, because I don't think you're saying they're terrible. It's just that almost no one thinks of them as the best. Well, Gawain and Gawin, no one thinks of them as the best. But Rand Elaine, I don't think people hate this relationship. I think it's just kind of middling ground for everybody. Maybe I should ask people to pick like a top 3. Maybe that would have been a better idea. But it's too late. And moving forward with another only 4 votes. So now we are at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th to last spot. We have Brigitta and Guy Doll. And once again, yeah, it's one we never actually get to experience. It's something we're only really told about through Brigitta's eyes. Their relationships never really seen much to actually have them interacting. And the fact that this relationship where no one sees them actually have chemistry together, except for some incredibly brief things, being above these bottom 4 is just impressive. Just honestly, I'm impressed. Like, okay. Well, I think there's just a lot of love for Brigitta as a character. I am one of the people. I think she's fantastic. And we're going to move on. But there's a significant jump in votes here from 4 to 10. And at 10 votes, we have Moiraine and Tom. And I'm actually happy to see this one not be at the bottom. I know it's kind of not loved by everybody. It's only got 10 votes, which isn't a ton. But I really thought it was charming and nice. So seeing that there's 10 other people out there who would call it, really good, or at least put, guys actually could vote multiple times on this, so who knows what, how this was skewed. But in terms of how this turned out, they're not doing terribly. And I actually think the foreshadowing of the romance was done pretty well. At number, let's see, at the 7th to last, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. We have Bale and Lewin, which I really have nothing to say about them, to be honest. They also have 10 votes, and we're going to move on to what I think is the least respected romance in terms of the outcome here, and one that I actually voted for when I voted on my own poll, which I did. So right in the middle, I think it's smack dab in the middle. We got 8 below it, and we have 7 below it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, the exact middle. We have Rand and Aviendha with only 12 votes. Only 11 other people agree with me that this is the best romance. I love that Aviendha gave Rand a lot of crap. I love that she helped him learn about another culture. I like the Two Rivers' stubbornness and Aviendha's Aiel stubbornness kind of clashing in a really, way that worked. And you could see the tension that actually was more like a bubbling romance building. I like them. I like them a lot, but I get it. And they are finally, that's 3% of the vote for Rand and Aviendha. Everyone else was at 2 and 1%. We're officially entering 3% of people went that way. And you know what? You other 11 people who voted for this, you're my favorite followers. No, not really. Or maybe. I don't know. It depends who you are. At number 7. At 7th to... sorry, I'm just going to say... I'm going to do a countdown now. So it's going to be like 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, yeah. At number 7, we have Swan Sanjay and Gareth Bryn. Not surprising to me, honestly. It's at 4% of the vote with 16 votes, and I don't hate it. I think Gareth Bryn's kind of pursuit of her was more typical of classic fantasy than a more modern fantasy romance, but it was handled in a way that I really enjoyed. And Gareth Bryn's a great character who I've not talked about enough on my channel. Who doesn't love Gareth? You know what I mean? He's he's wonderful. But him and Swan, two of the strongest characters in terms of personality in the entire series. It's great. And we're going full on spoilers here. So if you have not finished the series, plug your ears for about 10 seconds, please. But Swan Sanche and Gareth Brent, both of them dying was, I think that was two of the most impactful deaths at the end of the series for me. Just seeing them go out was, it was rough. I don't know why. I didn't know I had as much emotional investment in them until that happened. But moving on, at number 6, we have Gul, Bane, and Jihad. So apparently 16 people here, and a good portion of my audience, because this was actually like, I don't think, no one's going to just hate on this. We're open to some alternative relationships in the Aiel culture. And I really like this, it's different. They don't have the best chemistry of any relationship. They don't have, the most romantic scenes. But what Gul, Bane, and Jihad have is something new, something we're not seeing a whole lot of in fantasy in general. Because I'm honestly kind of tired of the typical romance tropes in fantasy, just like the beautiful people, man, woman, end up together. Oh, it's so nice. It's nice to see a dude who's dealing with like, well, I love this chick, but she loves this chick, and they're like this, so I gotta be like this. It's at least different, and I really appreciate that. So I'm okay with this being so high, even though it's probably not in a spotlight for a large portion of the series, but especially witnessing this romance through Perrin's eyes. It's very funny, and we're still at 4% of the vote here with 17 votes. But we're going to move on, speaking of Perrin, to number 5. And yeah, at the 5th highest spot, with a whopping 22 votes and 5% of the overall vote, we have Perrin and the Wolves. No, I'm kidding. We have Perrin and Fael. This is a pretty divisive relationship in the series. Some people love it. Some people hate it. And I get both sides of it. I'm not even lying. Even when I started this channel, I still really did not like this relationship. But as I've gotten older and I've been in more relationships and I've experienced, honestly, some of the problems that Perrin and Fael demonstrate in their own relationship, it becomes more relatable. The small miscommunications that can slowly lead to some resentment and some anger. Jealousy is like a plague in relationships. I'm not a very jealous guy, but we're all human. We all have our weak moments, and people, I've been on both ends of that. So I've slowly come to like it and respect it more. It's by no means my favorite romance, my favorite relationship here, but it's one that I've come to understand and appreciate as an adult a little bit better, because it's like looking back on your high school romances. It's like looking back at when you didn't know what you were doing, and you get a little bit of hindsight. That's what Perrin and Fael kind of let me have. So it's cathartic in a way that you're kind of past that point. And I don't hate that Perrin and Fael have this relationship, because they're both young when it starts. They're both kids, and they grow up together. They reach a maturity within their relationship that's really great. And now we have a massive jump in votes for the number 4 spot. More than double, sitting at 14% of the votes and 57 votes total. We have Rand and Min. Now, Rand and Min, I honestly, if I was calling this before I saw the poll, I would have been wrong what number one would have been from your guys' votes. I would have said this would be at number 1, but it's at number 3. And, that's a respectable position, and arguably, possibly within the margin of error. So this could be like number 1, and because every time you take a poll like this, there's a margin of error. If you don't know what margin of error is, look it up. But I get why this is so high. It's one of the most fully realized and fully fleshed out relationships of the entire series. They have some of the best chemistry of the entire series. We really have some incredibly high stakes moments between these two, and both of them are smart, intelligent, capable adults who we can both put ourselves in their shoes, and we really we want to see them succeed. And it's the one that Rand spends the most time with and develops the most, so it makes sense that it's higher than Rand and Aviendha and Rand and Elaine. So I'm digging it. I like it quite a bit. Oh, I just realized I didn't put one relationship in there, and that's Aviendha and Elaine, because I have a theory that they kind of were together off some underhanded mentioned things in the series. I think they actually were low-key together too, and Robert Jordan's made it more subtle, because if there's one thing we know about Robert Jordan, he does not like writing graphic sex stuff or being direct about that. He's much more about subtlety. And I think he did do some stuff with Elaine and Avienda. But maybe that's stuff for another time. That's stuff for another video down the road. But now we're going to move to number 3. Did I say Random Mim is number 3? I meant number 4. For number 3, we have Nynaeve and Lan. And when I last checked in, this was at the number 1 spot. But it seems to have been voted voted down 2 spots. And that's pretty surprising to me, to be honest. Seeing this happen. Someone could have come in and voted many times and totally skewed the results. That is possible, but I doubt it. I don't think anyone would care enough to do that. But interesting. So they have 75 votes, Nynaeve and Lan, and 18% of the overall votes. That's quite impressive. That's a good showing. That's well within the margin of error, because the number 1 spot only has 19, and then there's kind of a joke answer that has the most, but I kind of did that to get troll answers out of the way, and it's a funny thing. But anyway, at the number 3 spot, we have Nynaeve and Lan, who have, God, I don't even know how to describe their romance. It's almost like just a meant to be. Like, it just feels right. They're 2 characters who their romance is never really questioned. Their belongingness is never really together, isn't ever put in doubt or jeopardy. They're just meant to be in a very intimate, real way. And I think in all the more complex relationships within Wheel of Time, it's nice to have this one that just kind of feels more certain, more traditional, more like a married couple. More like, Nynaeve and Lan, they give you that I might have relationship problems, but I can always go to these 2 who are so great together to be comforted and see their amazing love works situation. That's how I see these 2. Love works. You can see these 2. They're the wholesome. They're the wholesome 2. Oh, and I forgot another romance. I should have put Loyal in his books. And now we're moving on to the number 2 spot with 81 votes. We have Matt and Tuon. This might be the biggest surprise to me now that I'm actually at it. I would have thought this would have been much lower. Because, wow, a lot of people I've heard do not like this one. But it's in the number 2 spot. It's gotten a lot of love. And I can understand it because, people love Matt. And seeing this kind of alternative beginning to a romance, this kind of strange situation take place could be neat. But if there's any answer that I'm going to say has been skewed, and I'm not accusing, I'm just, let me know in the comments if you voted for Matt and Tuon. Let me know, did you? Because if I see a lot of people who are like, yeah, I did, then I'll accept this as a non-skewed thing. Because it's just, in general, my feeling from the water, from talking with you guys, has been that the Matt-Tuon relationship has not quite been the most popular. Anyway, we need to move on to the number 1 answer, because that was number 2. And the number 1 answer was Padon Fane and One Pointy Blade. With 24% of the vote and 102 votes. So if you accept the joke answer, that's the number 1 spot. But in reality, the actual number spot goes to Matt and Tuon by a very slim margin over Nynaeve and Lan, only 6 votes, who have a fairly substantial lead over Rand and Min with a little over 20 votes, or a little under 20 votes, sorry. Then we have Perrin and Fael with a big step down, about another 23 vote difference. And then it's a pretty slim curve downward through the rest. I'll just run over the rankings once again. So in actuality, at the number 1 spot, we have Matt and Tuon. Then we have Nynaeve and Lan at number 2, Rand and Min at number 3, Perrin and Fael at number 4, Gul Bane and Jihad at number 5, Swan Sanche Gareth Bryn at number 6, Rand and Avienda at number 7, Bale and Lewin at number 8, Moraine and Tom at number 9, Brigitta and Guy Doll Kane at number 10, Rand and Elaine at number 11, Morghese and Talvor at number 12, Galad and Berelain at number 13, and Egwene and Gawain at number 14. So that's pretty substantial, I'd say. That's a substantial turnout. Thank you guys for voting. That was a lot of fun. And I thought this was a cool thing. I'll definitely be doing more polls in the future, because I think it's a neat little way to get an examination of the audience. I'm going to try to find a tool instead of this one where I can maybe make sure people are only voting once, because I do think this is an accurate representation of the series overall. But there's a couple things I've seen while I've been tracking this throughout the week where it seems like maybe someone came in and voted a whole bunch to skew it towards a romance they really liked. If you're one of the people that did that, please don't. Let's get an accurate pulse of everyone. But it's not about winners. It's about seeing what the community thinks overall. But I'll probably find a way where you have to like sign in with Google or something in the future, so you can only vote once. But that was neat. I really enjoyed that, and I hope you guys did as well. Where there's a few more things we can go through here to see a more accurate picture. There's a timeline of what the votes for this overall series looked like, and at the beginning, the clear winner was Matt and Tuon. They actually were at number 1 with 45 votes within the first 2 days, while the next biggest was Lan and Nynaeve with 28. And then there was a steep drop-off for Matt and Tuon. And then it picked up again once at the end with 17 votes, kind of at the last minute. It's Saturday night. That's why I'm kind of thinking someone came in the first day, voted Matt and Tuon a bunch, and then someone came in the last day and voted Matt and Tuon a whole bunch to try and skew the result for something they prefer. But if that, I'm not saying that's for sure the case. Maybe it wasn't, and maybe that just happens to be an anomaly in the data. But Nynaeve and Lan actually held, if you look at the average of the number of votes that were given throughout the days, Nynaeve and Lan were in number 1 with the most consistent votes, followed pretty closely by Rand and Min. That's pretty interesting. So then we have a pie graph. I'll go ahead and put the link down in the description below. So if you guys want to see all this data laid out all nice and pretty, you're more than welcome to. I want to give a little bit of a shout out to everyone, all the places I got votes from. I got a lot in the U.S., of course. I love seeing some turnout from my home country. Love it. Got a lot of people in Europe, of course. Thank you so much. And it looks like we have a couple people as well in Asia. I see like faint green tints. You guys are always welcome. I love seeing turnout from everywhere. It's great. It still blows my mind to know that I have like people in other countries that watch me. Anyway, guys, that's the relationship breakdown. I know it's a little bit of a faster episode of WoT Talk, but I'm a big fan of data, like really a lot. And so seeing this broken down so well to me was really neat. So for the next episode of WoT Talk, we're going to have more of a conversational episode here rather than me going over some data, because what I want to know, and I'll be reading your responses, what is your favorite conflict in the Wheel of Time? Now, I know that's a broad question, and it's intentionally that way. What I want to know is, what's your favorite conflict? And it can be something like a battle. It can be Dumai's Wells. It could be something more long-term scheming. It could be the conflict that lasts between Rand and Lanfear, something like that. So really think outside the box here. I'd like to know what your favorite conflicts are. The one that immediately came to mind when I picked this question was the conflict between Mazrim Taim and Rand. It's one that I don't normally think about, but the more I've gone over it, the more I really appreciate the subtle struggling of power and ego that happens between the two. It's interesting. And it's one of the things that was one of Rand's greatest failures, in my opinion, was the failed relationship with Taim. So go ahead and let me know what your favorite conflict was in the description down below. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again soon. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.